It may be almost 2 months since the federal election, but there's still plenty of hidden gems you may have missed. I'm Roman McKinnon. This is Spin Check. Good evening and welcome. While the attention of the nation was focused on the lower house results, there's a lot that happened in the upper house you may have missed. As we've already covered, minor parties like the UAP, Jackie Lambie Network and David Pocock all made gains while our ex-Patrick team and Centre Alliance lost. Legalised Cannabis Australia surprised many by, at times, coming close to even winning a seat. In fact, in almost every single state and territory, the party came 5th or 6th in total results. The exceptions were in South Australia, where the Group O ticket came ahead of them, we'll get back to them later, and in the ACT, where David Pocock and Kim for Canberra were notable players. Kevin Bonham, a polling analyst, has estimated that if there was a double dissolution election like we saw in 2016, the coalition would have won 28, ALP 26, Greens 12, and One Nation 5. Legalised Cannabis getting 1, Jackie Lambie 1, and the UAP and David Pocock at 1. He estimated One Nation would have won in New South Wales, where Malcolm Roberts is a senator, Queensland, where Pauline Hanson is, as well as WA, Tasmania, SA, where they were close at times. Legalised Cannabis would have won in Queensland and Victoria. Group O was a notable case where Nick Xenophon, former independent and later Nick Xenophon team senator, and Sterling Griff, a Centre Alliance senator, were on the same group on the ballot paper. This meant that even though they had a Centre Alliance was not formally running in the South Australian Senate race. Two notable contenders were both in the same state, Clive Palmer for the United Australia Party and Campbell Newman in the Lib Dems, both running and failing to get into the Senate in Queensland. It's worth noting that Socialist Equality Party and Australia One, both unregistered, did endorse some candidates, but none got in. The Women's Rights and Gender Equity Party, Team Baz, Sensible Centre Party, and Voices for the Senate were all set to run candidates, but none did. The latter has now been registered by the AEC. The overall national results showed the coalition with the most votes, followed by Labor and the Greens, then One Nation, UAP, Legalised Cannabis around 20,000 votes behind. While at the bottom was Kim for Canberra, Local Party, Progressive and Democratic Alliance. The total number of votes nationwide for unendorsed or ungrouped candidates was less than shooters, fishers and farmers, but more than Great Australian. One of, if not the, most well-known ungrouped Senate candidate in Victoria was Max Dix. He ran and picked up over 2,500 first preference votes. But another ungrouped candidate received less time in the spotlight, even with his own unique name. Earlier, our chief anchor caught up with James Bond, the candidate, not the actor.
First of all, James Bond, can I confirm that's your legal name there, or? Yeah.
It is my legal name. No, it is my legal birth name. I was named after my grandfather on my mother's side. So my mum always wanted to name her first son James, and then she happened to marry a guy called Bond. So it was just meant to be, you know. But I think she kind of likes bragging to her friends about her son James Bond. So there is a bit of that.
Victorian ungrouped Senate candidates with names, and we got you, James Bond. We've got Max Dix. I mean, what a lineup! Tell us, why make the move to run as an ungrouped Senate candidate? It's probably the hardest challenge for anyone running in a federal election, to be one of those ungrouped candidates lumped in with, a couple others with completely different policies and views, etc.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I did my research. I didn't expect to win based on the way that the independent ungrouped candidates' votes are counted. You need to get all number ones next to your name for the vote to count. So you don't have any the twos and threes in the preferences. They don't contribute to your score, which is a kind of like structural impediment to independents getting up in the parliament unless they make deals with the major parties. So I did my research. I knew that I was basically had no chance of winning. I wasn't really running to win. I was running as an opportunity to voice some of my concerns about, the environment, intergenerational wealth, inequality, and to also kind of upend the way that the modern media presents issues in a very kind of sanitized way, very kind of clear, black and white, no calling out people for being too rich or no calling out people for doing something that's destructive for the environment. There's no kind of accountability, and people didn't just say it like it is. They don't really say it like it is in the media a lot. So I wanted to be a candidate who would just go out there and say it like it is without the expectation of winning, but just with the expectation of getting the ideas to percolate a bit more.
Tell us a bit more about those ideas and those views you wanted to push. You mentioned the environment there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the environment's been undercooked in terms of our policy, Australia's policy, for decades now. So it's pretty poor. I've got a background I've just finished a PhD at Melbourne Uni where I've looked at the environment, and I've been passionate about the environment for my whole life. And it's just disgusting the way we treat the environment in this country, not just physically, like by polluting it, but also the way mainstream media talks about it as though it's a little bit of a side issue, or, oh, that's nice that you're into the environment. Oh, I'm into, TV. Like it's an issue that you can just tease apart. Like it's so important, and it's not really, it's underrepresented in my view. So that's the major issue that that kind of probably maintained my interest in politics in the first place. And the second one was the intergenerational wealth inequality, where I wanted to talk about taxing the boomers.
Vote out the boomers, which was seen in a couple of your YouTube videos, was an interesting slogan. Tell us a bit more why you went with that, and then why you want to vote out the boomers.
Well, I mean, just to pick up on what I was just saying, it's another one of those issues that people don't really want to talk about. And it's not the way that the mainstream media would ever really frame the issue, but it's a way of framing intergenerational wealth inequality. It's such a mouthful, and people like, what does that even mean? But if you say vote out the boomers, people will go, oh, actually, what's he saying? So it's meant as a kind of a way to pique people's interest, as a kind of, clickbait almost, really, in terms of its purpose. But the idea behind it is that you have a generation of people in the boomer generation who have had an incredibly good run in terms of building wealth, especially buying houses cheap back when they were younger. And now there's a lot of wealth sitting in that generation who are retiring or, close to retirement. And all the people in government are also in that age group, and they keep creating laws. Ever since Howard, they've been creating laws to keep wealth in the boomer generation at the expense of the environment, at the expense of younger generations. And there's so much evidence into this. And I mean, the funny thing from my perspective is that I did a couple of videos about this during the election campaign. And then 6 days out from the election, Scott Morrison and the Liberal Party announced their housing policy, which part of it was to take, that young people could take 50 grand or 100 grand out of their super and use it to buy houses, which are getting sold by boomers, and then the boomers can put it straight into their superannuation tax-free, like up to $300,000. So it was just another example of intergenerational wealth inequality, or that's intergenerational theft, really, in the guise of a housing policy. And, things like that just don't get called out often enough, in my view. So that was what motivated me.
Labor obviously won the election. What do you make of it, and what do you predict in terms of how they go? They've got a lot of challenges that they're obviously facing right now, just immediately after getting in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm hopeful that they can do a good job. It's been a long time since we've seen Labor in government. Last time they were in government, they really kind of had it going really well with Kevin Rudd, and then all the wheels fell off really quickly. With the internal fighting. So I hope that doesn't happen again. I mean, they've got a lot of problems. You can see that they'll be saying stuff like the last government did this, and, it's not our fault that the energy market's so hopeless. And that's fine. But also, you've only got a certain amount of time where you can get away with that for. So I'd like to see them actually institute some serious structural reforms around taxation and spend money on building green infrastructure, like big money. Because we've obviously got money, like all the money we spent during the pandemic showed that. So if we really wanted to go into debt to finance a new green world, we could do it. So I'd like to see that.
And we've got a lot more on Senate results on our website, 6newsau.com. Don't forget to sign up to our free newsletter to stay up to date with all the original reporting. You can find a link to that on our website as well. Before we go tonight, a major announcement. Next Thursday, 6 News' award-winning chief reporter Connor Alforque takes a look at the state of media in Australia in a special report. Take a look.
This Thursday,
a 6 News exclusive story, 4 months in the making.
Award-winning journalist Connor Alforque looks at the state of the media in Australia and why people are switching off. A former Seven political editor speaks out about why he's suddenly left the industry for the first time in depth.
People that own media organisations will use that power to try and manipulate the political process.
Plus, a leading academic's idea to save struggling media outlets.
But I do think that what's happened over the last few years is an increasingly polarised media. That the commercial media is in absolute crisis of trust and has been for some time, and I think the industry has been in huge denial about this.
And a 6 News exclusive. Former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman about the media's treatment of his government and his Senate campaign.
Do you stand by your comment that the media is a pack of bastards?
Oh, back in that period, yes they were.
Why are we so mad at the media? Thursday at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on the 6 News YouTube channel and on our website, 6newsau.com.
Don't miss it, and be sure to tune in for more on that on the special report in the coming days. And that is Spin Check for this Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. A reminder, you can find the latest headlines on our website, 6newsau.com. For now though, I'm Roman McKinnon. Good night.